new podcast.
Oh,
We could
okay.
start a
I
brand new podcast with a new name if you wanted.
no, it's okay. I like literature only.
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber. It's should we is so it started. We've started.
Yeah.
I feel optimistic. I know this is gonna be the worst one, so I don't think anyone's gonna listen, but
Who knows, man? Maybe it'll be the best one because it's the most like
no one's read this book.
real,
No one's read
most
this
raw.
book.
I mean, yeah, not nobody's really read this
And
book.
there's no reason to. So my thoughts are this is like a terrible book.
There's no
I'm gonna
reason
be
to.
this is
What
like
do you mean?
this is Hemingway's worst book.
No way.
Okay, so what do you think? So this is
I
a
thought,
short story collection called
yeah.
In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway. It's
Hmm.
it's it's got this weird format where it has short stories and then it has like these other shorter stories that are like one page and are kind of connected in between each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So the formatting is kind of strange and it's hard to get used to for me. And also the writing in general, I just didn't enjoy it as much as you did. Obviously, you like.
Yeah. So I was just reading about that, and apparently the story is that it started with six prose vignettes being published by Ezra Pound in 1923. So like the vignettes are the little like short paragraphs between chapters. So in 1923, six of those were published, and then in 1924, Hemingway added 12 more vignettes and then published in Paris, In Our Time in lowercase. And so that's a different In Our Time, and it's only the vignettes. So the vignettes we see between chapters. And
Okay.
then he wrote 14 short stories for the 1925 edition, which kind of became the In Our Time that we're reading right now. But I think it was really good. It was really interesting. It's like it's supposed to be like a Bildungsroman, like a coming of age book, but it's like it's told in a really interesting, um, unconventional sort of way. I think some of the stories, maybe some of the stories are a little bit boring. Like I didn't really think the big Two-Hearted River was like great. I mean, some of them were like a little slow, but some of them were like really punchy and like I don't know.
He can
I
he
like
can end a story well. He's pretty good at like getting the ending to be like cool and interesting, and it kind of redeems it sometimes.
yeah.
But my biggest complaint was that like if you're trying to emulate life, sometimes you succeed, and life is so boring day to day that it's like there's no reason to actually emulate life because it's so can be tedious and dull, and some of the stories are just the Nick Adams character. He's just fishing, and then he doesn't even. There's nothing interesting happening. Like he doesn't think about anything. He doesn't do anything. It's just a very detailed analysis of Nick Adams camping.
Mm. Yeah, but I guess to play devil's advocate, I'd say um, that people would say that this is like Hemingway's theory of omission, or like the iceberg theory. And
Mm.
so if you're reading that final story, it's like Nick Adams, it's like he's by himself. It's like where's his best friend Bill? Like where did he go? What period of time is this? Is it before or after he got shot in the spine? Because we see in one of the earlier vignettes that he gets shot in the spine and he's like basically dying against a wall somewhere um, during some war. It's
Right.
very
Yeah.
and you and that vignette is early on in the book and you kind of almost yeah you already know Nick's fate before the book is over, which is like I thought it was a really interesting technique. I don't know what you think.
Okay. So what? So it was in one of the vignettes, like in between the chapters, that he got shot.
Yeah, I can actually look up the exact
Okay. So those vignettes were actually about Nick Adams. I didn't realize
I think
that.
some of them were, and then some of them weren't. I think some of
Okay.
them were actually open for like interpretation, like the really early ones that talk about the Greco Turkish War. I kind of have a feeling that those are also about Nick Adams, but it's like it's
It's
very
hard to tell. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to tell. And yeah, I'm trying to find
Yeah.
yeah, so it's it's a little vignette. It's like almost the epigraph of chapter six. It says Nick sat against the wall of the church where they had dragged him clear of machine gun fire on the street. Both legs stuck out awkwardly. He had been hit in the spine. Yeah.
You mentioned the iceberg theory,
Hmm.
where like you only see a tiny bit of the iceberg, and 90% of it is under the water.
Hmm.
He's so good at that. He's so good at just starting the story, and then he knows what's going on completely. Like he's in control, and then you have to catch up. But it's kind of enjoyable to catch up and figure out what's happening. And he is
Mm.
really good at it. Like I mean, I guess he coined that term, iceberg theory.
I actually don't know who coined that term. Um, I can look it up now if you want, or we can figure it out in
Well,
uh,
what he's really good at it. He's like,
yeah, well, yeah, it's coined by, well, that's what Wikipedia says at least,
okay.
but he is really good at that. Actually, I took a class where this book was assigned. It was actually for B.W. Powell's class, and he said that I don't know if I buy this, but he said that the story, remember the one, it's The Cat in the Rain.
Um, Remind me what happens.
Um, there's a cat outside, like this girl's like sitting in her hotel room, and there's a cat underneath a table sitting outside in the rain, and she's like, I want that cat so bad. Um,
Right.
and then she goes down to look for it,
Oh,
and
it's
it's not
gone.
there.
Yeah.
And she comes back upstairs, and then she's sad. And then I think the maid comes up, knocks on the door, and she says, "I think this is for you." And she has the cat in her arms. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my prof said, well, BW said that that story was about impotence. That like
And so many of Hemingway's stuff is about impotence,
it is a
either
bit, yeah,
explicitly or implicitly.
yeah. But I don't know if I buy that. I felt like um, I don't know that the story of the cat was like symbolic of their relationship, the couple, because she's like, I can't cut my hair short. I can never have fun. I can't even have a cat. And
Mm.
it's just like, there's all these deeper issues that like there are implicit within the story that aren't brought completely forward.
Is the cat supposed to be like their child or something?
Oh, actually, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's what it's insinuating. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't.
I'm not
This
sure.
is the problem with these like really. I guess that maybe that's Hemingway. What he's trying to do, he's trying to make it so that you have to like debate what it's about.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't. It's not, it just wasn't my favorite book. There's some other Hemingways that are just a
Yeah.
lot better.
What did you think of the story, My Old Man?
Pretty much the same thing as I thought about all the others. It was kind of good. The ending was nice. The narrators are always like little boys, and they have this little
Mm.
boy voice kind of, but then they also have an incredibly detailed knowledge of America and of France for some reason. And so for the old man, my old man, they're Americans in France, and
Hmm.
the father is like a jockey, and
Yeah.
he's an old jockey, and he's not in his prime, and lots of very detailed descriptions of what it's like to be a jockey in France, and getting to know some of the people, and eventually the father does do a race and he dies.
Mm.
It's like very sad. um or not even for the boy. He's like a grown man at that. It's really hard to tell
No,
where the narrator is,
he's
because he's
still a
happy
boy at that.
sometimes. He's still a boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
But
What did you think about it?
well, that was the story that kind of hit me the most. It was the most emotionally powerful because it's like his father's a jockey, but his father also fixes races. But he also loves
Right.
his father, so there's like
Yeah.
this complex relationship where he like loves his dad, but he knows that his dad is like a bit of a crook, and then his dad dies, like really tragically. Like he gets flung off the horse, and the horse fucking like lands on him, basically crushes him, and he's like dead in minutes. And then he's like overhearing these stories being told of his dad, that like his dad was like a piece of shit, basically.
Yeah.
And then and it's like so heartbreaking. Like his dad had just died, and then you overhear these people talking about him and saying that he was just awful. And then the story ends by him saying like, what does he say? Once,
Yeah, don't you listen to what those bums said, Joe. Your old man was once a guy. And that's basically how it ends. It's just very anticlimactic, I guess. And we don't actually get to like see how the son's obviously sad, but then what happens?
it doesn't end on that. He actually says, but I don't know. Seems like when they get started, they don't leave a guy nothing. And I thought, man, that's
What does that
fucking.
mean? What is that? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. That thought or that idea is just so brutal that like, you know, you die and then they just like shit all over your name. It's like you're nothing. It's like, oh my God, that's I don't know. I don't know how to feel
It's
about that. I don't know how to
mm,
explain that.
yeah. Was there any other story that you thought really stood out to you?
Um, let me check my yeah, the story about Krebs. I think it's called Soldier Home.
Oh yeah, I like a very short story too. Okay. You want to
Yeah,
start
the
from
very
the
short story um is the that story is actually about partially autobiographical of Hemingway's life because he met a nurse in
Oh, in
Europe.
Italy or when he was in the
Yeah,
First World War. Okay, yeah.
yeah, and she basically broke his heart by planning to marry an Italian officer.
Oh, okay.
But she actually ended up returning to the U.S. That nurse, but her and Hemingway never made contact after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I read that short story. I read it, and I thought, man, that's bleak. Like, you know, there's this love, like this really powerful love, and then she, goes off for this officer who ends up abandoning her, and then he goes and becomes a taxi driver and ends up like getting gonorrhea or something. And it's just like
Yeah, this is
it's just
like
so
mm,
bleak, but then it's like you find out it's partially true, you know?
this was one of the funny ones for me. Like it ends with a short time after he contracted gonorrhea from a sales girl in a Loop department store while riding in a taxi cab through Lincoln Park.
Yeah, I thought that was so dark, but so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
you could have sex in taxi cabs back in the day. Is that's a thing?
well, you can have sex in cars today too. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
but no, no, no. But it says
hop in the
taxi
back
cab.
seat, I guess.
It's
Well,
it's
no,
explicitly a taxi cab.
no, he rode the taxi cab. Like
Oh,
he was a taxi cab
he's the
driver.
driver. Okay, all
Yeah,
right. That's how they pay the fare back then. I got it.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the other story you were mentioning was Soldiers Home, right?
Soldier's Home, which is, yeah, immediately follows a very short story.
Right. Which is
It's Krebs. He returns home from the war and
so
he
confusing. And
starts like,
Krebs is who? Who's Krebs again? That's just a new character, or is it part of
it's
the?
just yeah, brand new
Okay,
character
all
for this
right.
story. Yeah, and he only appears in this story. So he comes back from the war and he tries to tell people stories, but he starts embellishing them like everybody else embellishes them. And then he starts like hating himself for lying. And he just hates all the lies. And he just stops talking about the war and he just wants to like live a quiet life. And, his kind of parents won't let him. They want him to like, you know, move out, get a wife, get a job, like do something, get your passion back because he obviously doesn't have any passion. And yeah, there's just like this feeling of like dejection that you can't even describe, but like um uh his mother asks him like, "Do you love me?" And he says no.
Right.
And then later it implies that like later he says like he lies and he says I wasn't I was just lying. I didn't mean it, Mom. Like I actually love you. And like
Yeah, I have to be honest. For me, another boring one.
Another boy.
Um, and this was a bit autobiographical as well. That he's in Kansas, which Hemingway worked for the Kansas Star, I think, something like that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
guess
I'm
I'm
not
just
sure.
not the biggest Hemingway fan ever, and the iceberg theory makes it a little hard. Like the way he does it just makes it a little hard to know. I feel lost for so much of the short story, and I find like near the end, I finally get to like, oh, this is that character. This is what the mother's like. This is what the
Mm.
father's like, and then it's over.
Hmm. It's funny because I feel like Hemingway is better that way. Like I feel like I find his short stories much more powerful because I'm reading The Sun Also Rises right now, and
That's good.
yeah, it's good, but some of the scenes I feel like just drag out or are filled with like kind of useless details. Like yeah, we went downstairs and we had a couple of drinks and then we got a cab and it's like, okay, get to the point. But but I like his short stories. I feel like he's able to deliver so much emotion in such a short space, and I find that that's yeah, requires a lot of talent.
Yeah. The I do feel like he's trying to say something when he has the he's just describing life, and for him that's such an like just everyday mundane stuff is important, and I do kind of like it. Sometimes it's really beautiful, and of course Hemingway style's famous, but um it's gone. I don't know what I was going to say. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, okay, the confusingness of okay, so we had to read Salinger's stories in school. I feel like in the Salinger books or the short stories, there was so much intention. Like um I felt like the endings were so on purpose. And I'd like, oh, there's a mystery here and I have to find it out. And with these ones, it's almost there, but I'm almost too lazy to figure out what the mystery is because I just don't care as much about the characters as I would for a Salinger short story. I
Mm.
think that's my biggest criticism of the book, which clearly I didn't, you liked more than me.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I found yeah, like I already said it. Like I guess I just found some of these stories very powerful, very emotional. A lot of themes about um, dejection, tragedy, really violent too, really brutal. Like it starts off just depicting some of the violent scenes from. I mean, the first thing that he talks about is uh, the during the war between the Turks and the Greeks, um, when the Greeks had to leave, they broke the legs of the mules and to just push them into the harbor, drown them
Mm,
in the harbor, and it's so brutal, it's so
mm,
bleak. And then there's the vignette almost immediately after that of soldiers, presumably, I think maybe could be Nick, um, shooting Germans as they come out of a garden, one after
right.
another. They come out
Yeah.
and they just fall into. It's
And they
like,
keep coming out and they keep shooting them.
yeah, it's so violent and yeah, there's almost this. Like it's almost trying to say something metaphysically, I think, like something about reality, like that this is like life is just sort of tragic in a way.
Yeah. I feel like I shouldn't be so harsh because I just looked. I think he was 25 when he wrote these stories, somewhere around
Ye-
that age, like mid
Yeah,
20s.
maybe even younger. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So they're
Because
really well done
he
for
was
a 25
19
year old.
when he started like writing journalism and
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
super young. Yeah. But yeah, so it is his first story. And this story made waves in the literary community for like it's like really terse, dense, um, punchy style. Like no one else is
Mm,
writing like this.
yeah. I'm getting a running out of time thing on my
Oh, yeah,
for
we
Zoom.
don't have Zoom Premium, so we have well, I
Experiencing
guess
running out of time. Experience unlimited meetings, AI companion, clip Clips Plus and more with Zoom Workplace Pro.
How much is it? Should
Well,
we
it doesn't say,
invest?
but it says save an additional 15% off your first year when choosing an annual plan. We don't need you, Zoom. I don't know. You want to just I'll just resend you another link.
Yeah, maybe we could pick a different platform to record on or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think
We
Skype is
have
free now,
okay.
or we have,
Let's
or
just
I
keep going
think
until it dies. It
yeah,
says
I
I have
think
nine
we.
minutes.
Anyways, I really liked it, and I like Hemingway short stories. Have you read The Snows of Kilimanjaro?
I have like maybe 5 years ago. I don't remember. I did read it,
Okay,
but I don't remember any. Like he's camping and then
yeah.
something happens. I don't know. Go ahead. You talk about it though.
Well, yeah, he's the main character is like on a hunt in Africa, and he contracts gangrene in his leg, and he starts dying, and then he's like laying down in his bed, and he's basically recounting all the stories that he could have wrote, that he should have wrote, but that he didn't, and just regretting it. And it's like it's really, yeah, very powerful. And I think it's probably Hemingway's best story, like even including his novels. Like it's pretty amazing, I think, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to what we've been reading individually, or like a movie we saw or something?
Yeah, sure. I haven't watched any movies recently, but
I saw The Boy and the Heron.
oh, dude, I saw that when
It
I
was
saw that
really
when it came
good.
out.
It was really good.
It was really good.
People were saying they didn't like it, but yeah.
Yeah, some people did.
Um, it was. I really like. There's all like his style is pretty consistent throughout all his movies.
Mm.
So, but I was so surprised. Like the heron, like there's a little man that comes out of the heron's beak. I was like gross, and it was like very inventive. I thought.
Yeah.
It was. It was really beautiful. There was so much stuff that was like, oh my god, he's a
Mm.
master.
Yeah, and talk about iceberg theory. It's like the story seems like a bit superficial on the surface, but it's like it's a story about grief, and it's like it's very sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's so good at the like. I remember the first time I watched a Miyazaki movie. I watched Spirited Away, and um, it was I kept waiting for someone to explain the magic, like explain what is happening, and no one
Mm.
ever explains it. So it's sort of, and it's like this amazing way in which children accept their world completely. They don't question it, and because it's happening, he always has like a kid as the main protagonist or whatever, and
Hmm.
they're not questioning it. They're just accepting this world has magic and demons and like good guys that fight them. And I don't know. It's really I always love his movies.
Hmm. I think if you wanted an explanation for everything, you should have watched an American movie. I feel like American movies just like they have to explain everything, and it's like, oh my God, so
Yeah, and the
annoying.
explanations never make sense.
Yeah. But oh, I had something else to say about the movie. Um, yeah, I heard someone say that like they liked the movie, but they didn't get the whole like dad being like basically a war criminal thing. Like the dad basically invents planes to like um and he has like a bunch of like airplane parts like at their house to
Mm.
build airplanes. And but yeah,
Yeah,
that
there's
didn't really have that had nothing to do with
no,
anything
it didn't.
because
And
Miyazaki's father was a aircraft mechanic.
right,
Like that's
right.
why it's like it's a little bit of a autobiographical like detail just inserted in the story, I thought. And like this
There's
person was just like, yeah, making it to be something it's not.
yeah, there's always like it's like out of the corner of your eye, there's like a bit of nostalgia for war in every Miyazaki movie,
Mm,
and like defeat and victory and like whatever,
mm,
like nationalism. But the main focus is always something else and something more innocent and something more pure.
hmm.
I think so. Even yeah, that's I mean it's there, but it's not the main point.
Yeah, I don't know if he has like an exactly a nostalgia for war because I was reading. Have you seen the Wind Rises?
Uh, no, I think I've seen like 2 minutes. That's about the zero, right? The plane, the Japanese plane.
It's about the plane mechanic basically.
Okay.
Yeah, he like helps create aircraft, but he creates aircraft for the love and beauty of engineering and aerospace technology.
Is that the one
And
where his
there's
wife is dying? And
yeah,
okay, yeah, I
yeah.
see it.
Well,
Yeah.
spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's a great movie. But someone like people have said that that is slightly about Miyazaki's career because Miyazaki he like made these animated films and it like um popularized the idea of like the lolly girl like a girl who's like very young but like wears like skimpy clothing and stuff, and that's something that Miyazaki has like great regret about.
Oh, I
and
didn't know that.
so and so this like airplane mechanic he creates these planes that are like beautiful but they also create pain and destruction, and he has to like reconcile these
Yeah,
two things. And like Miyazaki's the same way. He's creating this art, but it also was damaging in a sort of way.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. But
He
he's a
he is
genius.
he is so smart. I my girlfriend was showing me these clips of him like he's so dramatic. He's like life is over and he's like smoking a cigarette and looking
Yeah.
out and it's like there's no beauty left in the world. And then there's this one thing where these guys come with like AI art and he's like
Mm.
you have ripped out the soul of humanity. He says it to their face. It's so funny. If you guys, you should see the clip. It's like these executives are like so embarrassed because Miyazaki's like such a towering figure, and he
Mm.
hates what they've done. He hates it so much.
Hmm. Yeah, apparently he hates America as well, and like
Really,
American entertainment, yes. But yeah, he has this like really amazing clip where someone asks him like, "What's the future of Studio Ghibli?" And he just says, "The future, it's gonna crumble. Like we, that's inevitable. It's gonna die one
he's
day."
such a drama queen. He's such a drama queen. Like
I
he's
don't think
well
that's dramatic.
done.
I think that's like that was like almost stoic. He's just like he knows it's gonna fail and he accepts it. I'm like, God damn, that's pretty tough. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he's not wrong, but also he's being. That's true for everything. He's just being like maybe he's. I don't know. I'm making fun of him for being too sensitive, but I'm not. I'm not sensitive enough. I guess.
Okay, maybe I'm too sensitive as well. I don't know.
Wait. Okay. I'm gonna resend you a link because there's a minute
Yeah.
and 20 seconds left. Let me,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Let's do that.
yeah, we can do.
Bam. Yeah.
Okay. How was Edinburgh?
It was one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen. Um, it was crazy. Like I got off the bus and there's like this Game of Thrones castle right next to you on top of these rocks. And it's like yeah, one of the most stunning cities I've been to.
Wow. I really want to go. That sounds so cool. Was the
Yeah.
accent hard to
No, no.
gauge? No.
Well, it depends on where the person's from. If they're from like the countryside, it's a
Mm.
bit more harsh, but most of the I met a girl actually from Edinburgh, like who grew up there, and she has a like a soft Scottish accent, so it's not hard to understand at all. But yeah, they have a really cool culture too. Like the people are super friendly, and like um I don't know, all things Scottish. They've got like the kilts and the bagpipes and the haggis, and yeah, it's cool. I don't know.
Did you eat the haggis?
No, I forgot. I wanted to try the haggis, but I also wanted to try the vegan haggis. I heard that they made vegan haggis and apparently it's really good and a lot of people actually eat it. I was
The
like,
fuck would vegan haggis even be made out of? It's all meat.
yeah, true. I don't know, some sort of soy protein thing, but
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
fuck knows. Apparently it
Okay.
tastes like haggis though.
After that, you came back to Nova Scotia or
Yeah, yeah. After that, I've only been in Nova Scotia for 5 days.
okay.
Yeah, so I just got back and it's been a bit busy. Yeah, a little hectic.
Mm.
I bought a car.
You did?
Um, yeah, 2 days ago.
Wow.
Um,
What
um,
car?
I bought a 2015 Honda Civic.
Okay,
Um,
responsible. Okay.
yeah, very responsible. I didn't buy a BMW or something crazy. But it's standard transmission,
Right.
like like
Yeah.
manual,
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
never driven manual before.
Those ones. Okay. Those ones. I like. I have to learn that because my friend has a BMW and he got it for like
Oh, crazy.
$5,000 because it
What?
was a stick shift. and it's 10 years old. So, and it looks nice. It still looks good, but
It must be a piece of, it's gonna, yeah, it's gonna break down like very
it,
soon if you
he's
only bought it
he
for 5 grand.
he's a car guy, so he kind of knows what he's doing.
Mm.
Um, but I guess the heat's so cheap because no one drives stick anymore, or not many
Yeah, no
people.
one knows how. Yeah, it's the car like loses value if it's stick because yeah, most people don't know how.
Okay, so books. Any books that we've read? Um, I'll go first. I got two that three. Okay, I was in a slump for a long time for reading, and I'm getting out of it. And no, not Hemingway. Orwell's Down and Out in London and Paris.
Mm,
So good. His journalism is, you know, is so much better than his fiction. I think
hmm.
he's really good, and he puts himself in these horrible situations just makes himself suffer for our reading pleasure, and it's great. Um, I started the Brothers Karamazov I just wanted to see what it was like after so many years because I tried Crime and Punishment and I just couldn't do it. It was
Hmm.
so sad. It was so, and I just wasn't in that. I didn't want to be sad. Um, and so I read a little Brothers Karamazov, and the narrator is surprisingly funny. He's more funny than I thought he was, than I remembered he was.
Yeah.
Um, and then Moby Dick, I read a little bit of Moby Dick, and it is, I don't know if it's getting older or whatever it is, but these classics just keep getting better the more I read them. So,
Mm.
but I've only read a few chapters, so I don't. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I liked Moby Dick a lot, but it was excruciating at times. Just like descriptions of whaling that went on forever, that had
Yeah,
nothing to do with the plot whatsoever, that like actual
it's
hundreds
like
of
a
pages.
documentary. It's like he's trying to document all this stuff before it disappears, which
Yeah.
in retrospect is a great task. It's a noble thing to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I have to read it again. But I liked it the first time. It was just like some of the parts were like brutal. I was like I felt like I was slogging through it, but I think I should read it again with that um idea in mind that it's almost like a documentary. But um but yeah, I reread actually both of those I think last year. I reread The Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment, and they
You
were
did?
yeah,
Wow.
they're quite great. The only part about Brothers Karamazov that I didn't really enjoy is that I felt that the scene in the courthouse, like sort of towards the end, was just so drawn out. Just like yeah, like maybe 4 or 5 chapters, but just the court and like the proceedings and just going
Right.
to, and it was just
Yeah.
so boring.
I remember loving the ending. The
Crime and Punishment's amazing. Ugh.
yeah, no, the Brothers Karamazov ending where um Alyosha's like running in the streets. Was that Alyosha? So there's one of the brothers is like finally gets like hope and he's like weeping and running around in the streets and he's like, I don't know. I'll reread it and see what I.
Mm. I mean, there's one part where Dmitri, the oldest brother, like he gets interrogated. So he goes through the three torments. Um, and well, that's like him being interrogated, and the three torments is like symbolic of the uh, Dostoevsky wrote it's like as the like symbolic of the soul's passage into heaven when a soul passes into heaven and has to go through three torments. Um, and then at the end he falls asleep like basically on a chest of drawers, like he like lies down like on a couch basically, and he passes out and he has this dream of going through the countryside like in a horse and carriage, and there's these mothers like holding babies and like they're like the mothers are crying and the babies are crying, and he's asking like the driver like why are these children crying, like what's wrong, and he gets this like impulse, this feeling that he needs to save them, that he wants to save them, that he wants to live, that he wants to continue to live, and he just gets this like feeling of hope just like washes over him, and he it's a really beautiful moment. It's like basically, yeah, Dimitri's spiritual awakening. And it's super powerful. Yeah,
Oh wow. Okay.
and there's a
I'll
similar
definitely.
like similar scene at the end of Crime and Punishment, I guess. Yeah, when he falls down to his knees and confesses to everybody. And yeah, when he confesses to
Sonia.
Sonia, yeah,
Yeah.
he's like starts weeping at her feet and says, and they're just, and he says, only 6 more years, just 6 more years, and then we can be together. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, super beautiful. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think yeah, Crime and Punishment is just amazing book. Yeah, so good.
The place where I stopped is where he goes to the tavern, like he's just pawned his stuff and he's thinking
Mm,
about killing, and he goes to the tavern and we meet I forget his name, but it's that really like groveling drunk civil servant who's like
hmm.
insane.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't read it. I was like I'm sure this person exists, like this type of person exists in Russia. I just don't want to see it right now. Like
Yeah.
he's so groveling, he's so sad and pathetic, and he knows he's those things, which makes it kind of worse.
Mm.
Because then you
I
also
think,
have to deal with his, no, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Um it almost makes it worse that he knows he's those things because you have to understand, you have to like watch him like see himself and be like so pathetic. And if he was someone else who couldn't see himself, he would be less pathetic, kind of. I don't know. I stopped. I don't know. I wasn't into it.
Yeah, no, it's like it's very brutal. It's like he basically sells his own soul and he like sells his daughter into
Right.
prostitution to
Yeah.
like basically fund his alcoholism. It's like it's the most brutal, depressing story you could possibly imagine. But but not those people don't only exist in Russia. They exist everywhere. Like I've like
Yeah.
met people like that, just absolute like train wrecks. Like it's yeah, it's tragic, but
Mm.
yeah. But I mean, the story is also people say like Dostoevsky is like super depressing, but his stories always involve redemption in some way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hope. Like both the brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment end in hope. It's really beautiful. I was
Mm.
like, and he even shows the worst parts of humanity possible. Even with like the Grand Inquisitor, he shows the worst possible part of Christianity, the corruption
Mm.
and the power and the greed, and still at the end he redeems.
That story, like the more I think about that story, the more he nails it. Like Christ doesn't say anything. Like, and if Christ said something, the story is ruined just from like a technical standpoint. Like he can't, you can't have Christ say a new word. The gospel's already been written. So if Dostoevsky does that, then it's ruined. And he
Mm,
just, it's such a good story. And like the only action that Christ does famously is to kiss the Inquisitor.
mm.
Um, Oh, that's so good. Maybe we should do that for the next podcast. Maybe that's what we're doing.
We could do it, yeah. I've done one podcast episode on the Brothers Karamazov, but it was kind of just like a summary thing
Mm,
or like a discussion kind of. But yeah, we can talk about that. Talk about The Sun Also Rises, and there's a couple more Hemingway books that I'm gonna read here soon. And then after that, we can just like we can move away from the Hemingway because I won't be reading him for a while because I just need to read him right now for this project. But
yeah.
but after end of August, we can read whatever.
I wanted to ask this. What did you think about the narration on like the type of narration that Dostoevsky does, like third person omniscient? Like I feel like I keep reading these articles how like some of the new novels, like the millennial novelists, can't do that type of narration, and
Mm,
it's all first person.
hmm.
I don't know. What did you think? Did you? I guess there's so many classic books that are in that style.
Yeah, I think for Dostoevsky it works. But his style of narration is really interesting because the narrator is not him. It's usually actually its own character, and it has the narrator has their own voice, and the narrator is usually like somehow close or connected to the town that he's discussing. Like
Right.
there's
He
actually a
knows so much
part,
about the history of where he's talking about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, there's parts in the Brothers Karamazov. Like I think he actually like goes to the trial or something and sees Alyosha
Right.
for the first time there and like
It's always like a shadowy figure that like sometimes pokes himself into the narrative, but is
mm,
mainly just describing it and is like a really good storyteller.
mm. And the narrator has their own voice as well. Like I read an article about that the narrator's voice, they have their own verbal tics and like say like really stupid stuff randomly, or like pick up a word, use it a bunch, and then drop it and never say it again. Um, yeah, super interesting narrative technique. But I also read um, this other article about existentialism um, and writing. So Sartre was criticizing this other writer for writing in this like sort of omniscient way, because he was writing like God. And he famously says that uh, God is not an artist, and neither is this writer. So, so he's like basically suggesting that there is a style of narration that's more suitable for um, like existential writing. So like you know, unreliable narrator, first person, um, morally questionable. Like it's usually that kind of sort of figure. And I think I don't know. I think maybe writing from the first person, you could say that people just default to that because they lack the skill to write in the third person. But there are times where people can write very well and very skillfully in the first person, I think.
Mm. Oh,
I think it suits
God's not an
some,
artist.
apparently, according to Sartre, but
What a
I don't know.
idiot! That's why his eyes all fucked up.
Yeah. Anyways, I think I have to
Yeah, yeah,
go
yeah.
here.
Let's wrap it up.
All right.
All right. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. I doubt it. I don't know. This is the first episode. I'm gonna learn how to not cough into the microphone. I haven't learned that yet, evidently. So
Yeah, and I will get a better setup soon.
okay. All right. Bye bye, everyone.